There we go. Okay. And great, we got a nice group here. Thanks for coming. Yeah, so hopefully the noise outside my window cannot be heard. Does
I can't hear it.
Okay, good.
No.
Good. The mic usually doesn't pick up outside noise, so that's good. We're all set.
Al sent them up to air rate. It's gonna be a little noisy, so I can close that window.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
It is going to be noisy. Steve is going to close the window. And I guess we do have someone who comes.
They didn't tell me.
Okay, there we go. Surprise. Okay. Okay. Well, again, thank you for coming. This is great. October, I really cannot believe, when I had to schedule October, it's like, well, wait a second. My time frame was just totally off. I couldn't believe I was doing an October date, but anyway, here we are. And we've started off with a variety of weather, everything from gorgeous sunny day like today to that incredible rainstorm we had the other night. And I think we had like 2 inches of rain. It was crazy. But anyway, I'm sticking with the summer mood and I'm continuing to paint my water scenes. And what I have on the easel today is actually something that I started in one of my classes as just a demo on underpainting. And as part of the whole series, it really was looking at what we put underneath our pastels as we're creating a painting. And the second part of that was really looking at how do we go about making and creating a series. So part of the idea of the series was that people could do whatever they wanted. I'm in the middle of doing water, so I'm continuing with water. And when you think of a series, think of beyond just the objects that you're painting or the scene that you're painting. It doesn't matter what that is. It's also making a connection with the colors that are in that scene, with the palette that you're choosing, the type of toning you're doing with the board, the type of underpainting you're doing. And when you have a series, you do have that ability to be able to learn from one painting and then move on to the next one, use some of that in there, including the palette, which is really nice. So, and I'm just going to ask people, I do not mind if you unmute yourself and ask me questions, but if you're not going to ask me a question now, if people can just mute themselves, that'd be great. So what I have is I have my container here that has all the colors that I use when I'm painting my water scenes. And that started out with maybe 15 colors, 12 colors, something like that. And it ranged from violets to yellow greens, blues, blue greens, throwing in some peaches. And then from there, and those are all technical art color terms. Being a pastelist, I'm really sorry. I mean, the oil painters, acrylic painters, watercolors, they're really good at knowing their colors. I know if it's red or yellow, but I'm not really sure what the identification names are for a lot of colors. It's something I always thought I would do, but I don't know, I might not have the brain that really is actually interested in, well, here's one. I do know alizarin crimson and cadmium red. So I know the difference between those two skies, but it's a really helpful thing if you are a painter and you shift to pastels, because you've got that background knowledge of what colors you've mixed to create a new color. As pastelist, what I'm doing is I'm looking at the colors and their attributes, whether they're warm or cool, whether they're, light to dark, well, not warm or cool, but there's a range, warm to cool, light to dark, and dull to vivid. So that's the way I look at colors. So, so for those that are looking for exact names, I apologize, but I will tell you, if you have Great American pastels, they have the greatest names. Does anyone out there have Great American pastels? I'm seeing a couple names of hands. They must just pay someone.
I do,
yeah. Don't you agree? They must have someone that just comes up with these absolutely fabulous names. Like instead of was it instead of burnt umber, they have burnt Reynolds. So it's like, okay, great. For those of us that are old enough to know Burt Reynolds, that's funny. Maybe the younger crowd's not going to get it, and they might have changed the name by now anyway. But anyway, so that's what I'm doing when I'm looking at colors. So starting with that general palette, which I call a starter palette, and that's what I talk about in class too. You take that starter palette and you just keep adding to it, maybe taking things out that aren't working. And you don't necessarily use the same palette for every single painting in a series. So my water will change depending on whether it's a daytime painting, midday, dusk, whether it is water that's a little bit more turbulent, whether it's water that's calm, or water that actually has no action. So this water here for the one that I'm doing today is pretty still water. You know, we've come into the landing, we can see the rocks, and I'm actually adding sand in it too, because there's a lot of sand there. This section is just showing the stones. You know, and you're just getting a very, very slight ripple from the little dinghy that we've rode in. So there's not a lot of action. Where we're seeing a lot more action is when we start with the reflections that are back here. What I typically do with photographs, which you heard me say before, is I actually do take and, oh, you know what, I forgot to spotlight myself. Oh, no, I did. Sorry about that. So what I typically do is I have that as a base, and then I add other things to it. So I've changed the boats, I've added a larger boat, you know, I've played around with what I want in this foreground, because you know that feeling when you're by the water, it doesn't matter if it's the lake or ocean or whatever, you know, a little stream, a river. If there's light pools of water, you look through it and you're seeing what's at the bottom of the water. You're actually not even catching any reflections of the light hitting the water. So I like that idea of starting off as if you're looking down at the water and you're just seeing right through it to the what's sitting on the surface, and then beginning to add that amount of light that's hitting a little bit of the ripples, and then also the reflections in the background. The photograph from there, I did a value sketch, which I do not have up here, but I do have the notan. And the reason I have the notan here is because that's how I painted this. Okay, so this identified after my value sketch all my little dark areas. And if you've watched these before, you know I talk about notans a lot. And it's a wonderful way to look at that design factor. And, you know, I've got three of my quadrants are mostly like, this one's on the verge of being half and half, and this one's a little darker because the amount of reflections, and dark is relative. It's not dark in terms of being black. It's just dark in terms of being darker than the area that's lit by the light. So this notan gives me that basis for an underpainting. And what I was working on was the idea of toning paper, or using toned paper underneath. And how do you decide what you want to use? So in this case, I decided what I wanted was that real feeling of warmth. It's a sunny day. You can tell, look at that fabulous reflection. You know, it's calm. So I did want a warm color underneath. And this is Pastelmat, and I believe it's the Buttercup one. It's the softest of the three that they have that are warmer. And these are all acrylic inks. And using different variations on the acrylic ink. And this one here, this one, oh, Flesh Tint. Gosh, I think they might need to update that name. But anyway, you have to shake them a lot, and you get these lovely colors, and they also come in iridescent. And the iridescent colors, you can actually even see the glow right through there. I mean, they are really beautiful. And that's what I chose to do for the underpainting for this. Also trying to keep it nice and loose. So I blocked it in with a color that I made. You can see that I mixed a variety of colors using, a reddish brown and a peach color. And I mixed them until I got this guy right here, because I really like that orangey feel that would be underneath the water. And I can picture the greens of that late summer. You know, we still have green, but things are starting to think about turning. And then on top of it, that iridescent, I have a shimmery blue iridescent color that I painted over that to kind of tone down. You can see it right there. This is its natural. And this square was all that. And I came over it with that shimmer. And it kind of gave it, which I was really surprised, but it gave it very much of a feel of a violet. Which I love. I just think it looks really nice. That's a drip. I didn't wind up using these colors down here. So that was my basis, those three guys right there. So what I thought you might be interested in seeing, how do I tackle it once I get this? Sometimes you do an underpainting and say, oh, I don't want to put any pastel on it. I like the way it is. But anyway, I'm going to put pastel on it. So I am going to just check and see, does anyone have any questions before I get going? Okay, feel free, like I said, you know, interrupt if you have any questions. And let me just gonna go back just a tiny touch. There we go.
Betsy,
Yes.
the paper is sanded, is that right?
It is a sanded paper.
Okay. Yeah. And then the acrylic ink, it allows the pastel to also to paint on top of that with a pastel.
It does. It does. The acrylic ink, this is, and I'll tell you, this is why I really like the acrylic ink. If you use acrylic paint, it will, you know, you have to thin it, because it's, you know, the plasticity can fill the tooth of a pastel paper very quickly. And once you thin it with water, you wind up having less than vivid or less than dense color that you started with. So the acrylic inks, whatever color you see is what you get. They're so thin that you don't have to use any liquids to thin it. Having said that, it works fine if you add alcohol to it. It's resistant to water, so you need the acrylic ink. You need to clean the acrylic inks with alcohol, your brush. If you get the brush into the sink quick with, you know, not let it dry, you can clean it with soap and water. But otherwise, you know, if I want to take it off, I have to use rubbing alcohol. But the color is what you want, and that's what I like about them. I don't have to worry about losing the lovely vivid colors that I have.
Yes.
So good question.
Thank you.
Yes, no trouble at all.
Betsy, you also could, if you needed to reestablish ground, you could use the Diane Townsend grounds.
I could. Yeah, the Diane Townsend grounds would work out fine. The issue would be that you would have to have a ground color that would be compatible with your painting. And I have 3 or 4 of hers, and none of hers would at this point be compatible. But this is what Lisa is talking about. This is like a third of the stick. And it's a really super fine, but it's got the grit right in it. So if you want to reestablish the grit in your paper, you can use the ground. But I mean, this might work out, let's say, in some of the light areas. Now that I'm looking at it, I could do that too. Okay.
Yeah, so, agree.
Yeah. So if you haven't tried Diane Townsend ground, it's about that big, and it's just a hand-shaped, patted together little square. Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
The sepia and the gray, I like the best. The black is too dark. I put anything over it and I lose the vibrancy. And then the white's decent, but the sepia and the buff are really nice ones. And they come in a, I'll just hold them up for people to see. This is if you buy 2 of them, like you can buy them alone,
I'm not sure people
or you can buy them.
though.
Oh,
it could be, because I'm on Spotlight. You know what you
okay,
can
that's okay.
do, Lisa? You can,
Right.
if you want to, take a photograph of it, send them to me, and I'll just put it in the summary. Okay, yeah, that'd be great.
Okay,
People
sure.
can see. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Good enough.
Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm testing. Now, remember I'm testing these colors on, okay, and I want this to have, okay, so there. So it looks a little different here than here because I've got this. So I'm just gonna come in, I'm gonna establish, bless you. Don't forget, turn your, mute yourself. Now, you notice I wound up making two peaks, totally unintentional. I did not want to make zip. You know what? I always find that really like hilarious that, you know, you go through all this trouble of, you know, making sure that things don't wind up being patterned, and then I wind up making little teepees here. So, you know, as I do this, I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna just break that out. This same color, I'm just gonna bring this down. This is the showing through here. I'm just gonna bring a little bit of this because I do want that color. Okay, that's that far up above. So it's really only going to hit this little bit over here. So I'm gonna put that right there. And I'm gonna bring this guy in, make a little bit more of a rounded shape. And I don't really care if it looks like the trees that are over there in the photograph, because I'm doing my own thing here. You know, even people that know the area, you know, they're not gonna use that. Okay, let's get a little bit of warmth on that horizon here. And I love the peaches on the horizon. If it's during the day, it just adds that lovely glow, you know, that we often see a little bit there too. Okay, the trees in the background. Oh, now what's interesting is the this orange is affecting these colors. So I'm just getting down these base colors, because once I start adding the greens on here, this blue is going to look different. So right now this blue is looking a little vibrant. Okay, and I want it to be pushed back. So I want it to have color, but I don't want it to look too crazy. It's not the focus of my painting. The focus of my painting is really this area here, like a little bit of meandering around. So I'm going to get some of these greens in the background here, and I'm going to start with some of the, and let that green show through, let that peach show through, and let that violet show through. Side of the stick, these are all soft pastels I'm using at this point. Okay, and see that little violet that's showing there, that can act as a little bit of a light. Oh, that looks really, that violet underneath looks really, really lovely. Really lovely. Okay, light's coming from this direction. Okay, it's not highlight, it's you know, probably that 4 o'clock end of summertime, not like today. Today it was like, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe 4 o'clock and this area was all in shade. Okay, these guys are sitting a little bit forward, so we're going to catch some light here, and we're going to catch some light here. And again, I'm putting this on really soft, and I'm doing this kind of a mark. Okay, so I'm not covering up what's below. Okay, come across, because these are not flat objects. These have volume to them, so the light can come around the outside edge. Okay, this is not lit because this area here, this tree in particular, has no light coming across it because the light's behind it. So I'm just gonna, I don't want to have it, it's not going to be as dark as the photograph. So that color is looking really good. I like that. Then I have another green. This one's a little warm. So this is a decision I'm making, and this is what I mean by I don't know my color names, but I work hard on trying to understand color. So that's warm and a darker value. That's cool in a darker value. Okay, there's my value scale. They're not, you know, they're not this dark here. Well, it might be this dark. Okay, somewhere right in here, but it's not a black dark. Backlit, no light, want the orange to show through. So now I'm going to use this bluish green, same sort of thing. Gonna let some of that. I have to watch my head getting in the way. Bring that down. And typically when this is representing other plants that are at the bottom. And I'll add them in. Little light coming across here. Okay, so see the way the shapes are starting to show up here? Okay, let some of that light show through there. Okay, a little through here. I don't want to do too much because I've kind of changed the shape of that. And then this guy, we're going to just put a little bit of light right in here. Now, one of the reasons I'm doing the tree and the sky first here in exclusion to doing other areas is it's going to affect my reflection. So I need to know exactly what my background is before I start putting the reflection in. Let's get a little bit of undulation going on here. Okay. And you can still see those other colors showing through, and they're soft. This is turning out a little darker than I want because I want it pushed off. So I'm going to see if I have another bluish green. And this is not, I've done, let's see this one. Look at that color. Look at this big piece of pastel. I'm going to hold it on its side like this. You get a little piece that you like. Just hold it like that. See, I'm just dragging it over. Okay, that's kind of like toning down that dark color. So I don't really want it all that dark back there. You know, I want it to feel darker, but I don't want it dark. So I'll leave a little bit there. This area here, again, I have to be careful because I'm gonna put a couple of areas in here. Here's a little, okay, there, a variation. Photograph's not showing it. Of course, it's not gonna be black. Okay, that looks better. Let's get some vegetation down here. Oh, that's an interesting color. Oh yeah, that is. I'm gonna take this same one and I'm gonna get a little bit in here for where the light's falling, coming across. There's actually a path, a road that's there. There's a road that actually comes, this is Rope's Beach in Katuitt, and there's a road that comes down, you know, right in between here, which I'm not drawing, but I know the area, so I know why the trees are shaped like that. Okay, and again, I'm not sticking with, now, this is where, when you're doing underpainting, that looks fine the way it is, okay? It's not as bright as it in the photograph, but right now, that's okay. I don't need to get in there, and I don't need to add pastel on top of it. The violet that's showing through there is doing exactly what I want. I'm going to leave it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start moving down into this area, and I'm going to, reflections, typically the area you measure, okay, this is just a guide. It's not like a rule that can't be broken because it depends on the objects, the amount the water's moving, a whole load of different things. But typically the reflection is like this one here. I take the amount of land that there's the land hitting the water. Okay, this amount right here, below it. Okay, so my water's a little bit higher. It should have been a little bit lower. I look at this dark area here. This is going to be dark. Okay, and the dark's going to come down into this. And see, I already have my light in there. So I already painted that. So I don't need to actually take, and it's going to end about there. This area, look at this interesting shape. It's a mirror reflection, but you know, don't paint. That's one of the problems when, you know, when you have those lovely photographs where it does really look like a mirror. Well, the reality of it is it doesn't really look like a mirror. I mean, there's things that make it look like water. And one of the ways you can make things look like water is by doing that variation. Let me just double check this right here. You can do that variation of vertical strokes down. That's why I'm doing all these vertical strokes down. And then when I paint the water, I can come across in a horizontal. So that's what I'm bearing in mind. This here, some of these trees are going to be reflecting. This is a tall tree back here. I'm going to have him come out a little bit. You know, make a little,
Betsy, are you gonna use, Betsy, are you gonna use any neutrals in your strategy, especially next to the blue in the water and the green in that kind of brush as a way to accentuate those colors?
okay, so that's a good question, but here we go on neutrals, okay? Neutrals can mean many different things, okay? And some people think of neutrals and they go with like browns and they go with your grays that really look like they're made with
Yeah, I was
black and
referring
white.
to something with gray in it, yeah.
Right. So when I'm talking about dull, I'm talking about colors that are marching their way towards losing the, okay, think of it like this. If I have this color, we can see it, and we can see that it has a bluish green cast to it, right? Well, this is bluish green too. Okay, this one's a little darker. This one's a little lighter. This one is more vivid. This one is duller. Okay, so I don't necessarily think neutral, I think dull. Okay, so if I want something to, well, look at these two guys together. Okay, look at that. This guy looks really vibrant next to something dull. If I take that same color and I put it next to something else that's, this is tinted more of your white end, but it doesn't look as vibrant anymore, does it? Okay, put it next to the dull again. Look at that color. So I think more in terms of that than I like a reach for a gray or a brown that's typically called neutral. I'll reach for a dull yellow, a dull red, a dull, you know what, and dull on the light or dark zone. I mean, it goes both directions. But that's how you get your colors to start to vibrate. Is, you know, you're thinking of that color connection. Okay, so I'm making a variety of little marks. I'm going to get some of this in here. Some of this is going to be the reflection of the boat, and I'm going to come over that later. And some of this is just, oh, and this lovely iridescent color showing through is really neat. Really neat. Okay, I really like the way I cut this in. This boat is going to be a light color, and I cut in from the photograph, so I had this really nice shape. And I am going to get the dark over on this side too. Very light again, letting that color show through. Okay, so I'll, as I go through, you're just going to hear me talk about the dark and light. Warm and cool. Okay, so let's get some of this shadow down here, and this is this color right here, and I'm going to do the same sort of thing, and I'm going to just drag this down, very vertical marks, and I can go over this. It's coming there, coming a little here, and see, I've left my, this is reminding me, this is where the water is rippling and I'm catching more light. Everything that is this reddish color, reddish brown, is in fact reflecting the trees. Another thing that's great about an underpainting, it's just your keys. It's like, oh, okay, yep, that's right. Let's get just a little bit right there through here. I got to get this guy in here, and let's do this. Okay, and yeah, he's coming right through here, and he's going up. So see, I'm starting to change all that. How's the color on this, everyone? You doing okay? All right. Okay, good.
Betsy, if you were like painting this for a show, do you photograph it at different stages just so you can look at it, and if it goes south, you can go back to your last photograph to figure out where it went wrong?
You know, that's a
Or do
good
you not
question.
need, or do you not need to,
No.
or do you not need to do that?
No, you know what?
Beyond that
I take photographs of everything, even the stuff that winds up in a pile. I take photographs as I go along, because
Yeah.
we learn from our successes, but guess what? You
Yeah.
learn a lot. Everyone's heard that phrase. You learn a lot from your failures because you try to figure out another good reason to paint in a series. Okay.
Yeah.
This
I
is the
meant
second
like
one
right
I've done
now,
with this.
yeah.
I've changed it from the first one.
Yeah.
You know, but it's
Like, for example, right now it looks really nice. If you were if we weren't watching, would you photograph it at this stage? And so you like, I tend to do that. That way, if something goes south, I can go a few
Yeah,
pictures
no, it's
back and see.
excellent,
Okay.
excellent idea. Yeah, absolutely
Yeah.
to photograph. And Lisa, you're in my classes, so you know, but the reality of it, when I'm teaching or doing this, I very frequently forget to take photographs because I'm busy talking to people. I'm telling you what see, look at this, is already starting to look like the light. And it's really just the paper showing through with ripples that I put on with the darker value. And I did take a photograph before I started. So when I send out the recording, I'll include that. And
Betsy,
yeah,
Betsy, it's
yeah.
Mary Jane. You might be able to make still shots from your recorded video.
Yeah, somebody else told me that. Boy, I'll tell you, I'm going to leave this alone because I really have to sort out the boat before I started adding all this stuff in. Yes, I know. I had so much trouble trying to figure out how to do that, but I didn't really knock myself out trying to figure it out. So if I spend a little bit more time on it, then that'll probably work. Okay. Thank you, Mary Jane. So the tree is here. Okay, so the tree is coming in, so I can start putting a little bit of this blue, and don't forget that the sky is reflecting this, but the sky's above it, so the water's going to be reflecting what is above. So I can start getting some of this blue back in here, and again, I'm using the guide of my darker color that's there in my underpainting. And oh my gosh, this color is showing through. I painted this once before, and I used Richardson paper, which I'm not down talking Richardson, but I just had a lot of trouble with it. It was the first time I'd used it, and I found that I couldn't get the kind of mark making and layering. But if any of you like paper that has a lot of tooth to it, Richardson really had it was a great tooth, and it's the sort of paper that I would definitely go back to. But if you're new to pastel, do not get frustrated with the different papers. If you're using a paper, it's not doing what you want, try a different paper. There's all different sanded papers out there. And one of them is going to meet what you're looking for, so that's what happened with the Richardson. Great paper. It didn't suit my style. I'm going to have to play around with it a little. Okay, I like this. Don't want to come down too far because I have, okay, see the light's starting to show up. I didn't even have to paint it. See this dark? That's the blue. I'm going to use this warm blue right now. I can always come back in with something else. I'm not worried about it looking exactly like that, but I do want, okay, there, that's it. And I'm not going to, here she says, and I'm not going to, and I add more. Stop. Okay. Boat, let's get this before I go forward. I do tend to paint all over, but there's kind of like a break between here and here because a lot of this is objects and reflections. So I'm looking for a lovely, warm, light value green, too dark. And I want it to have, okay, that's looking better. Look at that's nice. That's warm. It's nice and warm. Okay. As I want to pick a little bit of this up in here. So I'm going to come in. I'm going to just come across. Just get a base color in here. Let some of that lovely iridescent violet that I have. Well, it's really blue, but it looks violet. And I'm now going to break this up by just having it go over the colors that I have behind there. And I wound up having this a little bit more uniform height going across, which I'm realizing now I might want to actually switch that around, but for now I'm just going to leave it. It's a little darker at the bottom, so let's go back to this guy. Pressure, I get dark, not much pressure. The color of the paper shows through and it's a little lighter. So I'm just going to break this up, and I'm going to kind of go up and down from that line because I don't want it totally straight. And that'll give me a little bit of the dark color underneath. Then I go back, I'm holding it on its side, and I'm just kind of doing this sort of thing, back and forth on it. So that gives it a little edge and this sort of little mark making. Okay, that looks good. So these guys are reflecting a little here. So again, it's a vertical. Now I'm holding it like this and I'm making the reflections. So now I'm coming over that other color that I had. Okay, that gives me a little bit of base for what's there. And I am just coming straight down, create that. I want that to stay a little dark, so I'm not going to put too much there. And I'm going to just come over a little bit there. So the color that I had underneath now becomes part of that. Oh, I like that a lot. I'm going to put a little of it over here. Okay, just I don't want to disrupt too much. Put a little bit of that light back there. Lots of reeds in this area. There, I actually condensed it by quite a bit. And I'm just gonna kind of bridge these two. Actually, you know what? I think I'll bridge it like this. So if you're doing grass and you find you're one of these people that start taking the tip and drawing it like that, try holding it on its edge like this and just, okay, and you get that nice, because the instructor once, I'm almost positive it was Rosalie Nadeau, had said what you do is you paint the light that's hitting the top. You don't, you know, that's one of the ways that you can attach that. And let me just, I'm gonna just go ahead and show you what I mean by that. This guy's a little bit lighter. He's a round edge guy, so I can't quite do the same thing. But let's say I'm going to say that there's light hitting this. Okay, I'm just rubbing it up and down and it's just hitting the tops. Okay, so I'm getting, I would consider that an embellishment. So I'm showing it to you, but it's not something I would typically put in now. I'd want to establish everything before I did it, but that's how you do it. And then the same thing, you come in with just your strokes down. And again, I don't.
Do you, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Do you give it any dark at the bottom, like in the picture, to kind of give it something to sit on a little more? Or
yeah,
are you
I did.
looking
I
for
did
more
add a
pressure?
little dark. I had this dark in there, and I do need to get in. I'm just really blocking in the shapes. So what's going to happen is I can come in like that and just fill that in afterwards. It's looking a little boxy now. And that's where what you do is you do the carving in. So I'm taking a color that's in the background there, and I'm just gonna carve in. And it's kind of like when you do sky holes. So I'm bringing in the color that's behind and I'm knocking it down. Remember, it was almost like this serious little boxy thing. So I'm coming in and I'm knocking that down and I'm getting rid of that very straight edge, not by adding grass, but by taking and adding background. You know, that old trick with the, well, I shouldn't say trick, it's a technique with, you know, the sky holes. You come in and, you know, you add your marks in here. And rather than trying to paint around the sky holes, you actually paint the sky holes. You just stick them right in and you break the mass up. Not as much on this side, but I'm going to bring him in a little bit. Okay, don't do that now, Betsy. Okay, I'm going to leave this. Oh, I really like those marks there. See, that's the sort of thing I like. I'm going to be coming in with some of that later on. I'm going to move down because I just wanted you to see how I get going. This. Okay, so this is it with water. This is like a little mini water thing for you guys. This is it with water. You have to know that point at which the water is reflecting objects or reflecting the sky, and at what point are you able to look under the water and you're not actually, it's not being, there's no blue down here at all. The photograph might show blue, there's no blue because this is not reflecting the sky. I can see through it. It's like 1 or 2 inches deep. So, and it's not rippling, so there's no ripples or waves to catch light. It's just lying there placidly. A little bit of a filmy bit there. You could put it in or not. So what I'm going to do now is I am just going, it's going to look pretty abstract. You're going to see the beginning part of this. I'm going to get in a variety of these. I love the violet that happened up here. So I'm going to go with that idea. And I am going to just start putting marks in for where I want my rocks. So these are little patterns. They're coming closer to me, so they're going to get a little bit bigger. They're pretty loose. And I'm kind of following these dark areas, but the light one's going to wind up possibly being the sand. And oh, this is gorgeous right there. I don't even want to go over that. That's, I don't know what happened. A couple of inks got together. Oh, where's my sketch? Okay, yeah, I have it going over this way. And okay, so this kind of gives me a feel for, okay, see, it's feeling a little sandy there, feeling a little sandy here. And I want it to feel like it's going that way. We'll put a couple here. I'm going to start doing it very softly and kind of obscure, because now the water is going to start interfering with being able to see. So now instead of doing a hard line, I'm doing a super, super soft line over here. So when you paint water that you can see through, you paint what you see. You don't paint water. Okay, so I'm going to come in and let's, okay. I see a nice movement there. I like that. That tie-in with the violet, that is like such a surprise, that color. I would never have thought that would come up. And that's the thing that's fun about painting and experimenting, is if I hadn't taken that shimmer blue iridescent ink and put it over this red orange, I would never have known that it would come out looking like that. Okay, I'm not gonna go too much on the violets, but I do want to get a violet that is a little lighter, but also dull, because at this point, I'm just looking at getting some dull things in here. And I'm just going to make a little bit more marks. Just a second, my light just turned off. Let me put it back on again. Okay. So now I'm just kind of choosing areas. Like this is already looking nice. I don't need to add any pastel over this. This is looking really nice. I'm kind of seeing the shapes of rocks. This is the shadows under the rocks. What I'm adding now is the feel of rocks. This is like a bluish, a reddish violet, sorry, a dull reddish violet that's actually looking blue because it's on orange. Okay, and typically I would tell you, keep a sheet on the side the same color. It looks different on white than it does on yellow. Okay, so I'm just putting some in here. There's a nice rock there. So what happens when you do it like this is the actual underpainting can wind up, that already looks like a rock. I'm not going to do anything to it. This guy just needs a little bit of a curve. I don't want these guys to be too big, and they're going to start turning a little orangey back here because I like that orange that's showing through. Okay, and I'm trying to look for a pattern here because remember I was doing this, so I'm doing the same thing, looking for patterns of where I'm putting these guys. So put a little bit right there. I don't want to lose him again. And this is just beginning phase. I'll go back in and refine it. I'm not going to be painting each of these individual rocks. That's not my style. I want it to feel like rocks, but I don't want it to look like I painted each little rock individually. Okay, so now I have a dark area, a mid-warm area, a mid-coolish area, and light areas. Okay, so that's good. So I've got a pattern. Ooh, look at this. I'm going to put a little bit back here. Oops, got to be careful. Mark it on the side. Okay, yep, around there. Because I'm going to be able to see a little bit underneath there, a little bit there, not too much. I'm trying to feel that little curvaceous feel. Okay, it got a little crazy there. Okay, leave that alone. And now I'm gonna come in with, so this would go back to when Lisa was talking about neutrals, okay? There's a gray, okay? This is really a very dull, bluish, light value. Well, this is a light value, dull blue. That's what it is, okay? It's actually not a black and white. It does not have any redeeming qualities that I can see because it is so dull that here I am not seeing any color interaction, and I'm always looking for color interaction. So now I'm going to put it up here on the yellow next to that little bit of orange, and I can start seeing the blue a little bit. I can see the blue there. Let's see what it looks like if I put it next to this little one. Not so much there. I can see that. Okay, so this tells me this color here, if I want to have it really do what I want it to do, I need to put it next to the oranges. So I'm just going to, this should be, it's slightly lighter. Okay, that's good, slightly lighter. I'm putting it next to the oranges. And okay, it's starting to look like it is picking up a little bit of the feel of the rocks that are around there. And this is a little cooler, so I'm going to have him cover up a little bit of the oranges, just a little. I'm going to put it softly. So the orange, because I'm going to bring in warmth in the bottom. So it's going a little bit deeper water here. Maybe this is just up to my ankles. It's starting to go up to my knees over here. So I'm going to, okay, there. Okay, and look, I went and covered that up that I liked. Geez, Betsy. Okay, softly though. What's really hard, if you, with acrylic inks, they resist water. So if you want to clean off an area, you can clean it with water and the acrylic ink stays. The acrylic ink will not wash off with water, okay? If you put lots of it on and scrubbed, my guess it would. But if I went into this with a little bit of water, the acrylic ink would not come off. Which is why, another reason why I like acrylic inks, because if I do totally, as somebody said, it's gone south and I don't like something, I could wash off this end. The pastel would go off, would disappear, but my acrylic ink would still be there. So I would still have my acrylic ink. Now with paper, I think I would be a little bit more hesitant to do that, but I use the acrylic inks on the boards that I make myself. And with the pumice gel, pumice ground, sorry. And that, okay, I want these to be warm. So, okay, there, I'm gonna stop with that for now, but I've got the colors. These guys are all sitting right here. So I have them and I know which ones I'm gonna use. I'm gonna bring in warm color that can take on, kicking up a little bit of the light. So this is lighter than the paper. So I'm just gonna play around. Yeah, I'm gonna start with this. I'm gonna start picking up edges. And I'm gonna start as if light is hitting some of these areas under the water. Okay, a little bit of light, a little bit of sound, a little bit of imagination. And this is pretty close to the color of the paper, but it's so I can bring up what looks like the paper when in fact it's really the pastel. But this is paper. Oops, dirty finger there, that was silly. So there, I can, that's looking a little sandy and rocky. That's looking good. Okay, I like that. So I'm looking for areas where I want to bring in a sandy path. So that's what I'm doing. I'm carving out now. Okay, let's bring some sand over here because this is kind of shallow. Now, of course, the sand is really not yellow. Underwater, it tends to look violet, but I want to bring in the light. So I am bringing this in. I can always bring some violet in on top of it. I like wet sand, really can take on a violet look. Okay, so Okay, I'm just gonna step over in here and look because I'm looking for a movement. Okay, this is boring. Look at that. It's just a whole load of rocks there. So now I've got a little bit of this moving in. It's coming around here. I think I'm just gonna put like a little bit of light right in here. As if it's coming through over here. Having this kind of like little pieces of it show through. I can do the same thing down here with this creamy color, a very light yellow, you know, on the verge of being dull because it's got so much white in it, but because it still has a real strong yellow feel, especially next to everything else, it's not actually looking dull. If I put it next to this, okay, now it looks dull. But in here, okay, a couple in here. I'm looking for a rhythm and a pattern of this moving in, just making little marks. They're going to get smaller as they go back because I'm going to see less of the sand showing through. And I'm just going to step back. Okay, that's kind of doing what I wanted it to. Okay. I'm sorry, I am not going to be working on the boat on this for a couple of reasons. One, I'm leaving the house in 10 minutes, going out for dinner with my husband. So I am not going to start tackling that boat. That's going to take a little bit more. What I will tell you is I'll take photographs so that you guys can see it. But when I have the shape in, and yes, things like that, I draw the edges. I draw the shape. I get it the way I want. It does have a skim of that shimmer on the inside because the light's coming and it's hitting the inside of the boat, not actually the outside of the boat. So I put the shimmer in there, again, just to remind me that's where that light is. But when you're painting the boat, what I'll be doing is I'll be cutting in to get that shape of the boat. So I'll skim the color in here. It's green in real life. I really don't think I want it green. I am probably going to go for a bluish color and put it in. I had, let me show you what I was going to use. These are more like cool, almost verging on violets, but they're cool. So they're going to look a little bit different. That one's a little darker and I have a little lighter, and they both have a cooler feel to them. This is a Diane Townsend Tirage, which also has a little gritty feel to it. And yes, I would be taking it out of the, I think you've seen me do this before. I would be taking it out, but these are like special. So I don't want to lose them. So I put them in and out of their little cigar wrapper there. But I love them. I love them a lot. This is a Mount Vision. Love Mount Vision. And they have nice big sticks. They feel like they're hard, but they really have a nice softness to them. Gorgeous colors, really nice colors. And see, that's it. I can just, when I finish, I can put it back in. This is also a newer one. So I kind of sometimes try to, I don't do very good, but I do try to keep them so I can remember what color they were. These are not as exciting as the other company. This beautiful color is number 654. I think they need to hire somebody to come up with some nice names. Only, I'll tell you, you know what? This is out of that. If you're going to buy Mount Vision, you're looking for colors that are verging on your neutrals. So you're dull, but you can see color, you can see blue, you can see violet. It is the Mount Vision Thunderstorm set. It's fabulous. And you know what they're perfect for if you're a Cape person? The shingles on our houses here. The colors are just fabulous. Well, nearly all the colors. But so hopefully this was helpful. So as a start, you can see, you know, it's just bringing in, and see how well that underpainting that I did just kind of like pulled in. So I have these areas here. If I want to make this lighter, I know this is the area that's lighter. If there's any of these that I need to go darker, I've already got that dark color underneath. So what happens is I work the whole thing over like this. And then what I'll be doing is going back in And some areas are going to wind up being more, what's the word I'm trying to think of? I don't want to have the same amount of detail here as I have here. Okay, so this is going to be the area where we're going to be able to see it being rocks and sand, but it's not going to be descriptive. The boat will have a little bit more description, and then what will happen is back here, again, I'm not going to go crazy doing a whole load of detail back here either. I mean, there's things on the shore, there's another boat back there, and this isn't just going for this nice peaceful scene and really focused on how these colors are interacting and getting a flow through so that we're just kind of like moving through that scene, almost as if we're going to be floating over this. And yes, I will be putting a little bit of light over the top, not this color, to just show as if the water is sitting on top. And I might do bubbles. I'm not sure. Bubbles might be too much. If I put double, where was I doing bubbles the other day? Oh, this one here. It's doing bubbles. Okay, so this made sense in here. Okay, this is a close-up version. Okay, pilings in the one of the docks. So getting the bubbles in there didn't disrupt the flow. Whereas if I wind up having too much bubbly, as much as I like painting bubbles, it may detract from what I'm trying to do. So we'll see how that goes. But any questions?
Amount Vision 654, the rich violet.
Yep. That was
Okay,
it?
yeah.
654?
Yeah.
Yeah, 654.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Yep.
Look at this color.
I know.
Isn't
I
it
guess the
beautiful?
advantage of numbering them versus names is, the numbers, when you look in the list, give you a sense of the values. But,
Yeah,
but I still agree.
absolutely. There's a sense, I
Yeah.
clearly they're not going to hire somebody to name them just
Yeah.
because I said so. When I'm looking at them, I just get a chuckle out of, I just get a chuckle out of them. Let's say, okay, well, this one's not really funny, but it's true. It's denim. I can remember that color.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Here's this one
Yeah.
here is,
Mhm.
this is Surf Angel. Okay, I'm telling you, they're clever. But anyway, any other questions?
I look forward to seeing the finished painting.
Oh,
Yeah.
good, thank you.
I like
you.
this one a lot. I like this, Betsy. It's more, I always think of you as higher chrome, or I could be wrong, but this is more muted.
Yeah, there is a lot of mutedness that's going on in there, if that is actually a word. But I did start with a pretty strong color under it. So what's happening, and I think what sometimes gets lost with videos and also photographs, is that there's a whole load of this lovely violet showing through up here. And I do like I do like the intensity of color. But
Yeah.
I also love the interactions of colors that have a lot of intensity and colors that don't, because like I showed you with those two aquas, okay, the aqua looks really strong next to something that's dull. It's like, it looks really vibrant. Doesn't look so vibrant next to something that's also vibrant. So it depends on what you're trying to do. Like this
No,
is
I like
out
this
over
one
my
a lot.
shoulder.
Yeah.
Look at that. Doesn't that look nice? Get the boat in. See, that's why I think the cool blue will look nice on the boat, because I'm gonna have, I'm gonna have some cool blues in the water too. But I'm starting off with the warms. Okay, I'm gonna just yes, another question?
When you send out the video, and sometimes you do just still pictures of the process, can you show us how you're going to do that foreground water that's on
Yes,
top
I'll
of
take photographs of that.
Okay.
I'm just gonna write myself a note because take photos. Oh, you know what? One of the best things to do, and this is what I did when I started painting water, is I had just a takeaway container, and I believe I had it clear, not black, because that's going to change it. I put sand in it, I put shells in it, and it was a little deeper one. It was about that deep, like 2 inches. And then I just watched what happened, and, some of the edges are a little bit warbly, you don't have a lot of
Yeah.
hard edges because you're looking under the water, hit the water. And that's where you get to see that when water's shallow, you're not, even if with a bright light on it, with water shallow, you're not getting any reflection of the sky. You might have
Right.
light that hits the object under the water or even
Mhm.
floating on the water, and you get a shadow. But that's why shallow water, it's rarely blue unless it's moving a lot. It's just
Mm.
not blue because it's not
That's a
reflecting.
great idea.
Because it reflects we know that water is clear. Water is
Yeah.
not blue. Okay, water looks blue when it reflects the sky. So, or other things, but yes, I'll take photos of the rocks in the sand. Perfect. Any other comments, questions?
No, but thank you and have a great dinner.
Okay.
Betsy, I
yes,
have one.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you. It was
Looks
great,
beautiful already.
great seeing
Thank
everybody.
you.
And we'll see
Thank
some of
you very
you
much.
sooner than later, but November will be around the corner.
I know. Are you still doing, will you still do any plein air on Thursday?
Yeah, what
into
I'm
November?
doing
Or do you-
is thanks for asking, Lori. The plein air, unless something comes up, I'm planning on doing one next Thursday. From then on, it's going to be as per weather and my schedule.
Mhm.
So what
Okay.
I'll do is, ooh, my husband just went, time to go. I gotta go have
Yep.
clean hands to go
I'll
to
watch,
the
I'll watch
restaurant.
for your emails.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
yeah, definitely.
Bye. Thank
Okay,
you.
bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.